So let me turn everything over to Gail and Paul Anderson to talk about Java on mobile.
All right, I want to welcome everybody. Java on mobile, write once, run on iOS and Android. And I'm Paul, this is Gail. So who are we? Well, we're Java champions, like Frank said, and also we have a training company. We're based in San Diego, and we do courses in Java 8, which is great. I'm really happy to see that a lot of you guys are using 8. I've been spending a lot of time with companies helping them move to the new features of 8. We also teach courses in JavaFX and also Python and Linux and various other things. Gail and I have written 8 programming books. Our latest book is JavaFX Rich Client Programming on the NetBeans platform, and we've also authored a couple of live lesson videos from Pearson Education, one on JavaFX programming and the other on Java reflection. The other thing I wanted to tell you really quickly was that it was really great for Frank to invite us here. In fact, I got a chance to play in the No Pointers band in Java 1. I played bass, and I don't know if you guys know this, Frank is a really good guitar player. So, little plug for Frank there too. No, really, he's quite good. All right, so what's our agenda for tonight? We're going to talk about JavaFX on mobile. What we'd like to do is we'd like to suggest to people that have Java expertise like you guys do, is that if you want to get into mobile development, there is a way to take all of your Java knowledge and be able to write apps and run them with one code base on either Android or iOS. And of course, frameworks are the key. The framework that we're going to be talking about tonight is from Gluon, which is a company in Belgium, and they've developed a really super nice framework that helps you do this sort of stuff. And then, is anybody using JavaFX in here? Okay. We'll also introduce, some of the nice features of JavaFX. Gail and I are big believers that, JavaFX, as you know, is the successor to Swing. But it's very nice on the mobile platform, especially with the Gluon framework. So we'll have 2 demos to show you guys with that, and then we'll move to the cloud, and we'll talk a little bit about Gluon Connect and the Gluon Cloud Authentication APIs. And then also we're using another afterburner framework for dependency injection. So we'll have time for some Q&A at the end, and we brought along our book. Gail and I are willing to give you, somebody here an autographed copy of our book for the most interesting question. Okay? And we'll decide what that is. Probably a question we don't know, right? Yeah, or something like that. Anyway, that's what our plan is. So let's get started. Okay, so why JavaFX on mobile, and what is the critical goal here? Well, creating native applications that target both the iOS and Android devices is challenging these days, because typically you have 2 separate code platforms that you have to maintain, and if you don't go that way and you try and do it yourself, there are some ineffective web-based solutions. But we found something that works out really, really well here, and this is the Gluon framework that we're going to be showing you tonight. And by the way, Gail and I don't work for Gluon at all. We just discovered this framework because we are really into JavaFX, and we're looking at ways to use JavaFX in effective ways. So the Gluon framework works, and it's really a nice solution with JavaFX to do mobile development. And I think you guys will see that tonight when we show you our demos.
And I just wanted to add that the Gluon people are really big into enterprise too. So they realize that mobile apps, yes, you have to have a really nice GUI, but you also need to provide back-end support. So they have concentrated on that.
So you guys aren't going to see one line of Objective-C or Swift code tonight. It's all going to be Java and JavaFX for the UI. And where Gluon comes in is that once you have the plugin installed on your IDE, then you can, after you write your code and you want to put it on the device, you just tell them, you just click on it and it will do it all for you. It hides all the messy details and the platform dependencies. And you can take advantage of JavaFX, which has these kinds of features. You've got a UI, a scene graph, you have nodes that you can style, you can apply animations to, and also you can separate your view from your model by using FXML, which is also an approach that we'll take. And one of the best parts about JavaFX that you guys will see tonight are observable properties, which means that you can have a property for something in your UI, and if it changes, you can attach a listener to it so that a callback will come to you when you can do your business logic, or you can have binding mechanisms, which are really concise ways of binding properties together for UIs and doing event handlers. And also, we wanted to tell you that JavaFX also has task APIs that allow you to keep your background execution tasks so your UI stays responsive, and also observable entities that let you keep your UI data in sync. Okay, real quick, this is what the Gluon framework looks like. Gluon Mobile will interfaces with your client application. That sits on top of the Java client platform. You might notice that there are platform agnostic APIs in Gluon Mobile that will let you talk to the native environments of the devices. For example, if you want to control the camera or the accelerometer or do GPS. All of this can be done through the Gluon Mobile. And these APIs are platform agnostic, so when you program, they're taking care of the details of the specifics for iOS and Android. Gail just mentioned a minute ago, the Gluon guys are very, very versed in the enterprise. So there is also a Gluon Cloud Link, which is a bridge between the device and the enterprise, and we'll be demonstrating that tonight in our demos as well. Okay, so what are the steps to get started? It's really easy. You just go to Gluon's website, download their plugin. They have plugins for the IDEs that you see here. They currently support NetBeans, Eclipse, and IntelliJ. Gail and I are going to show you guys demos and code that's running in NetBeans tonight. But all these plugins can work in any of your favorite IDEs that you see here. The Gluon plugin will also have Gradle support, so for the builds, and if you already have Gradle installed, that's great. If not, it will install it for you. And then you can begin to design your UI and debug it on the desktop, and then when you're ready to deploy it, the targets that they support are not only iOS and Android, but they also support embedded ones like Raspberry Pi. Okay, so if you want to get started and deploy on iOS, you'll need a Mac with Mac OS 10.11.5 or higher. You want to install and configure Xcode, and we're running 8.3 up here on our machine. We have 16 gigs of memory, and the more memory the better. And also, you can get Apple provisioning, which is currently $99 a year plus tax, but there's also free provisioning that you can use. It's a little bit more setup to do, but it's not too bad. And what Gluon does to make this all work is that you develop your code in Java and JavaFX with one code base, and then when you launch to iOS through the IDE, they will gather together the Apache Harmony class libraries and use the RoboVM AOT compiler to compile the Java code to the native iOS code and then deploy it to the connected device. And then if you want to work with Android, then you install the Android SDK Manager along with the built-in tools, the Android SDK platform, and the support libraries. And then there's a little bit of configuration with Gradle to have it find the support libraries in the top level directory. Otherwise, it will again use the Apache Harmony class libraries, optimize the bytecode for the Android target, deploy it to the device, and then there's a Dalvik runtime that will convert the bytecodes to the native code. Yes?
Going back to the previous slide, what does AOT stand for?
Ahead of time.
Ahead of time. Yeah. Now, this is what they're currently using right now, right? But Gluon is coming out with a new product that I'll mention in a second. The limitations right now is that the Apache Harmony libraries are mostly Java 7, but we were able to use lambdas in our code, and you guys will see lambdas for our event handlers and so forth. And that's because Gluon right now is using an open source tool called RetroLambda that converts lambda expressions in your code to anonymous inner classes. But the good news is that Gluon is going to have a new product later this year. It's going to be called Gluon VM, and they're going to have support for both Java 8 and Java 9. It will replace the AOT compiler that we just talked about and the Apache Harmony libraries. So this is really good because that means that you'll be able to leverage your Java 8 code, you'll be able to use lambdas and streams, and with Java 9, you can make your mobile applications modular with the module subsystem. And also they're going to use the class libraries from OpenJDK9. Okay, well, enough talk. It's time for our first demo. So Gail's going to switch over to NetBeans right now, and we're going to bring up our first demo that we're going to show you tonight. This is a great way to learn about the Gluon framework. This is our little information quiz. It's called Capital Punishment. And what we did was we took about 200 countries in the world, and we gathered their capitals, and we made a little instructional game, a little quiz game out of it. With a timer. So you have 10 seconds to answer each question, so you can't run off to Google and cheat, right? Mm-hmm. So let's fire it up, and we'll run it first. What's the capital of Paraguay?
Red.
Very good. Notice we do some CSS styling here when you get the right one. And notice the timer, 4.7 seconds there, right?
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Let's go and see where that is.
So we have Gluon Maps in the demo, and like I said, this is a learning tool, right? Because if you don't know where the capital of a country is, you can use the maps to find out. Notice Gail is able to scroll and move it around and so forth. And this is a little floating action button down here that's part of Google's material design spec, which Gluon uses, and that takes us back and forth between just two views that we have here. Let's try another one, Gail. All right, what's the capital of Federated States of Micronesia? Very good. Wow, these guys are pretty good. Let's try another one. Belize. San Jose.
No. It's not. But we wanted to show you what a wrong answer looks like. So
yeah.
That's very good.
You guys can't get them all right, that's all.
Yeah, so that's where that is.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to do 5 questions, so Thailand, we know that. Okay, and this last question, we're going to let the timer run out, so you know.
Now we're doing this, this little progress thing that you're seeing, we're doing this in one statement with a Java bind. It's really cool. We'll show it to you. This is one of the nice things about using JavaFX for this. Okay, so a couple of side pop-up views that come up. Notice, one came up from the bottom, says time's up. The other one came up that gives you summary. 3 out of 5 questions, your average response time was 6.5 seconds just about. Okay, so I'm going to turn over to Gail right now, and she's going to walk you through the structure of this application so you can see how simple it is to get started, and then we'll look at some code, and we'll show you how we're doing some of these things that you just saw.
Okay, so can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, the first thing this is a Gradle project. We mentioned that they use Gradle for the project structure, and in the top we have model classes, really, country, question, and our data, and we have views. So in this application, there are 2 views, and you saw them both, the map view and the quiz view. And each view has both a view class, which takes care of making sure the FXML gets loaded, and the presenter class, which is basically a controller for that view. And then under resources, all the shared resources go here. We have the images you saw, we have CSS, and the CSS can be, you can configure per view, you can configure it for the application, or if you want to actually make your Android and iOS application look differently, you can also go down and install specific CSS for those platforms as well. Paul mentioned that we're using FXML and JavaFX, which is a markup language to configure your static UI. And we have a tool, Gluon has a tool called Scene Builder that lets you do drag and drop, and I'm going to just show you that. I'm not sure how it's going to look on the VGA, but we'll see. Now it's just cut off a little bit, so you can recognize the view here. So it has drag and drop, and you can configure it. You can add different containers from the library. It's free, and Gluon has taken over custodian of it from Oracle, who was the original developer. So I'm going to...
And remember that this scene builder is not generating Java code, it's generating FXML code. And the reason why that's important is because this approach will enforce or encourage you to separate your view from the model. And the FXML is going to allow you to instantiate your UI components and configure them all so you write less Java code. Now let's show them the FXML code.
What does FXML stand for?
Well, it's XML for JavaFX, so
Yeah.
the
FX
XML.
Yeah.
So, okay, so, yeah, so it is, here we are.
Why don't you put it on maximum?
Oh, yeah,
You can see it a
okay,
little bit more.
I'm getting used to this,
Yeah.
so.
Here we go.
All right, so JavaFX supports a hierarchical scene graph. So they use a scene graph metaphor for controlling the UI, and so XML is a nice fit for a hierarchical definition of something. And here you can see there's a vertical box, the children are listed, there's an embedded horizontal box, there's an image view, labels, and you'll see down here, there's a progress indicator and label, and that corresponds to this progress indicator here, and the label inside that counts down when the quiz is going. And so even though these are defined in this FXML, which is for static definition, we have these FX IDs which allow us to access these controls from the Java code, so you can do your business logic in that way. Real quickly now, every mobile application under the Gluon system extends mobile application, which also extends the JavaFX application that if you do JavaFX you would be familiar with. And so this is the main class of our application. And in the initialize method, all the views are defined. Now, we didn't write this code. It gets generated when you say how many views you want, and this part of it gets generated. And then, real quickly, floating action button.
Let's show them the floating action button. Well, the FXML too, they can see the annotations.
Oh, right, okay. So, for every control that you want to access from your controller code, you annotate it with the @FXML. And this doesn't instantiate it, it's already instantiated by the FXML loader, but it allows you to access it so you can do dynamic configurations. For example, when we did the wrong answer, we styled that one button in red and made the check mark visible, so things like that. And then the floating action button at the bottom that you saw, this thing here that goes to the maps, that this is how it's defined. So we're using a material design icon. Paul mentioned that Google has this set of guidelines. How do you create a beautiful app for mobile? And so Gluon has taken these Google guidelines and styled their components using CSS so that they work well in the mobile environment. Okay, and then we have a Lambda here using the event handlers that switch to the map view when you push it. Very straightforward.
So let's show them a little bit about properties and binding, because this is what's really nice, what JavaFX brings to the table. Unlike Swing, where you have to write a lot of boilerplate code, you have to instantiate objects, you have to call setters to configure them. You can see the advantage of this kind of approach with FXML. Notice that the annotations are instantiating the objects, and the FXML is going to configure all of those components for you. Okay, so what we're going to show you right now is we're going to show you the binding technique that we're using with the progress indicator. And on the left up there, you can see, I think it's line 43.
Yeah, I'm trying to fit everything on here, so this is a JavaFX property that is a double, and that's time seconds.
Yeah. So let's go down and show them the bind statement that's binding the progress indicator that you see there to the display that is showing the timer as it's counting down from 10 seconds to 0.
Okay, so let's look at this. So you see the label is counting down and this progress indicator is progressing. So I'm going to get rid of it just so you can see the bind statement. So our time seconds is the property, the JavaFX property we defined, and this bind statement says the timer label, which is a label, it has a text property, bind that to the value of the time seconds. And we use a formatting to convert it. We only want one digit to the right of the decimal point, so it's one line of code that keeps this number counting down. Now, you're probably wondering, how does time seconds change? It is controlled by an animation timer. It says start at value 10, take 10 seconds and make it go to value 0. So, and that's pretty easy too, because JavaFX is really big in animation timelines. The second binding is with the progress indicator, which was the circular, thing that changes color gradually and within 10 seconds. And that is controlled by a progress property, and it goes from 0 to 1, I think, yeah. So so here's the bind statement then for, again, to the same double JavaFX property.
And let's show them one more. This is really cool here. If Gail brings up the app again, this time when she clicks, move it over so. This time when she clicks on the Get Next question button, watch that button got disabled, as well as the material design button down below. And this is actually done with one line of code in JavaFX with a bind. So we'll show you that here too, because this is why it's so nice to be able to do these things. There it is on line 185. It's very readable actually. The next question button's disable property will become disabled when the status property of the timeline is when the animation is running. And that's one line of code that does the next question button, and then down in line 188, FD is the floating action button. We're also disabling that as well. So for those of you that know how to do this sort of thing in Swing, you can see the advantages of using JavaFX and having these bind expressions. The business logic is actually expressed with the builder pattern here, and it makes it very nice and easy to use. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to switch to our next demo, which is a completely different demo than what we just did. And this one is going to be a little more real world in that it represents something that might be in the medical world. And what this is we're saying, okay, suppose that somebody wants to monitor their blood pressure readings and they want to use their phone to do that, right? So during the day, they might take their blood pressure and they would want to enter it on their phone. Suppose we wanted to design an app to do that, right? Let's show you what this one is. This is our BP Monitor app, and Gail's going to bring it up right now and show you a little bit about it.
Okay, so this is really different than the other application, obviously, but what this one shows is, again, Gluon has a set of controls. They have this library called the Gluon Glisten Charm library, and they have a bunch of controls that are specifically designed for mobile, and one of them is this Charm List View. So the Charm List View can do all sorts of really nice things. It has headers that you can program. In this case, we program them to reflect the readings month and year, and then we can categorize each of the blood pressure readings into the correct time period. And we have a lot of readings here, so we can scroll up, and as you can see, the headers replace the ones above it that when we go up. So that's nice. And the shadow effect, that's another material design guideline. For each reading, you can either delete it or edit it. I'm going to edit this one and change the reading to something a lot higher, and we then make, when your systolic reading's over 140, we make the whole reading in red. You can delete it, and it comes up with a nice alert, and again, that's a Gluon specific alert. And then the other thing you might want to do when you have an application that displays a bunch of data is visualize it, and JavaFX has a really nice charts library. And in this case, no special styling was done. This is straight out of the box for JavaFX. So we display 10 readings at a time, but we can step through the different readings, and on the phone you can actually swipe the view too to go through. And then we have, for whatever readings are displayed, we have a bar chart that displays the maximum, average, and minimum for that set of readings for each of the three reading types. And then I wanted to have you notice that when you go back to the readings page, it kind of bounces in from the left, and when you go to the charts page or the summary page, it bounces in from the right. And that, again, is another kind of mobile-friendly effect, and wanted to show you how that is done.
Question.
Yeah.
How do you use like JavaFX and Gluon perhaps for like applications where the data may need to be updated in real time, like maybe for the
We're going to talk about that.
trading app or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're going to
well,
have an example of
we're
that
gonna have
too.
an
So
example of
this application, the data is stored locally on the device. So on the one hand, it's not as convenient because you have to have that device to access your data, but on the other hand, you know it's secure, right? Because it's only on your device. So we have this application running on 3 different devices, and it's 3 different set of data. But we have a version of this application that stores the data in the cloud, authenticates the user, and then the data is associated with that particular user, and we're going to show you that. For the people that are interested in the bouncing. So it's just one line of code that says you bounce it in from the left or bounce it in the right. And if you don't bounce it, it just comes up like the quiz view.
Yeah, and for each Java 8 folks out there, you can see we're using a constructor reference here with the colon new. And, so there's a lot of, if you're interested in looking at our code and seeing what we did here, we're going to have this available on our website. But, we're using a lot of Java 8 features here, which I think you've already seen. Okay, so let's show them these 2 apps running on the phone.
Okay, so what I'm actually going to do is bring up I have them both running on a Nexus 5, an Android, and I don't have a way to connect that, but I have my iPhone. I have them both running on the iPhone, and I can show you that. There we are.
Here it is.
Okay, so started it. Cape Verde. I think it's no, it's not one. Okay. Okay, so let's bring up the other one. So same things.
So, what you're seeing here is you're seeing one code base that is being deployed to 2 different devices, iOS and Android, so you can leverage all of your Java expertise without learning any new languages like Swift or Objective-C. And this solution isn't for everybody, right? But it's good when you want to have the look and feel of an app.
And then this is the Android. I know it's not visible, but you can at least see that it looks similar.
Yeah.
Same.
Okay, so let's switch back to the notes, and now we're going to move to the cloud. We have a couple of demos to show you here as well, this is another part of this that we feel is very important to let people know about, and that is that not only can you have these applications running on your devices, but very often you'll want to be able to store your data in the cloud, and you want to be able to access this in a reasonable way. So Gluon has a client-side library that maps your data.
Can I ask one quick question regarding Android or iOS?
I'm sorry?
Just one quick question regarding Android and iOS. Is it possible, does Gluon provide some sort of ability to kind of integrate with maybe some kind of third-party library? Like
Yes.
say I have like a Swift library to connect to something and...
I know they can do it if it's a library, this Java library, and I'm not completely clear about if it's a Swift library or not. I'm not sure. You can, I think it's possible, but you might have to program some hooks yourself.
Or do they actually expose some hooks that you can...
They expose the hooks to access the native iOS. So for example, if you wanted to access the camera, they have, as Paul said, a platform agnostic way, a set of libraries to do that. But if they don't necessarily have every single native thing implemented. So Gluon has always done it by a squeaky wheel. If a bunch of people want, accelerometer, well, they have accelerometer. But there might be another example, then they provide the hooks to do that.
So how about the events that are fired, like when the app starts, there are certain events that Android provides. Do you have access to those or no?
I don't know. I would think that you might be able to. I mean, there's certain life cycle events that you can access to, but in terms of Android specific ones, I'm not sure.
And this doesn't require any JVM, etc. on the actual device. It just compiles back to the native code and it's a native application that's running, right?
Yes, yes, it is a native application. So on the Android, it's the Dalvik runtime that converts it, and on iOS, it gets converted on your development system and then launched.
So when you do the Gradle build, it output or spits out the respective application.
So we haven't shown it because it does take a little time, but if you have your iPhone connected to the machine in your IDE, say launch on an iOS device, and so it has to go through and churn through with the Harmony libraries and the IoT compiler and convert your Java code to the correct bytecode, and then that gets translated to the iOS code.
Yes?
Hi, I think the gentleman asked like the first half of my question already. So basically I can look at Gluon like a transpiler, transferring, like basically compiling Java code into respective code.
Yes.
Yes.
But is the full language, I know it's Java 8, it's not, but Java 7 is the full language supported?
Well, eventually the full language will be there, but right now it's relying on the Apache Harmony libraries, and I think those are mostly Java 7. So there are some Java 7 stuff that's not in there. I'm not sure what it is. Lambdas are available because of the package, the retro lambda package. There's no streams. The date and time for Java 8 is there, but not all the methods.
The reason I'm asking this question is like garbage collections and also the Java memory model is only available in the VM. So I wonder, like those things may not, like for example, I cannot assume some concurrent package will be working correctly in that environment, right?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, certainly they make heavy use of the JavaFX task API, and so that for asynchronous stuff.
So the next question I have is like, I see one of the slides actually building Gluon VM. Are they trying to build a VM?
Yes.
Yes.
So now at that point there will be
It'll be
at that time
full
you'll have full
JDK9.
JDK9 with Lambda streams and modules.
at that point I can assume Java memory model, for example.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So right now, they're close. But when the Gluon VM product comes out, it will be, they will be able to do these things that you're saying.
Okay.
Which means the VM needs to be installed on the device?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's completely true, because I don't think that Apple lets you put the VM on the device.
Yeah.
So it still has to get translated to iOS native code.
So, can I ask a more general question? So there's this Gluon framework, but there's other ones that do this as well.
Yes.
Native, React Native. Google has a lab thing called Flutter, based on Dart. Do you have any sense of why this approach versus React Native or Flutter or something else?
Well, we were attracted to this one because of the JavaFX on the top end, and then since we've seen what Gluon has done and what their background is and what they intend to do with it, and so that we didn't go in and do an exhaustive comparison.
The Gluon people are really heavy and have a very large backgrounds in enterprise stuff. So they are trying to put the hooks into the framework to handle the cloud situations, and then the JavaFX is a nice way to do the UIs. So that's what mostly attracted us to it, is that the cloud support, and also it's a nice application for JavaFX.
So that's their business model, is the enterprise, and they just want to hook in mobile.
Yes.
That's correct. That's
like
their
the
business
Sun
model.
It's like the old Sun model. Okay.
Well, maybe
I mean,
that's not good or bad, but
a lot of their stuff is open source, but yeah, they need a model to make money. So that's their their cloud licenses. And they have, the enterprise is really important, and you know, we're probably not to get to show everything, but one of the things is the cloud link, and they have a public cloud, and if you want an on-premise cloud, they do it on-premise as well, and they do, you know, authentication, and so they're really putting a lot of effort into the enterprise part.
Yeah, okay, so,
The other,
yeah, so do you want, yeah, so let's show them really quickly. This is a very simple application that's going to demonstrate that we can have messages that are stored in the cloud, and we can transmit them easily between devices. This is not a complicated program, but it's going to show you what we're going to do when we show you this is we're going to show you a technique called remote binding, which is like local binding, except that you're binding into the cloud. And another thing that we really like about the Gluon framework is the code to do this is very, very simple, and they're handling a lot of things behind the scenes for you.
okay, so this program is really simple. You write in a text message, you hit submit, and it goes to the cloud. But all the devices that will be connected with this program then can also submit. The most recent one is the one that everybody sees. So I'm just going to run it on the Android. And so there's no user authentication in this one. It's a public data. And so, and then I can do the same thing from the iPhone, which I won't because we're running out of time.
So let's show them the binding techniques though for remote binding.
Do they support push notification?
I'm sorry?
Do they support like a push notification?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that.
I mean,
this
it's
is
just,
what we're.
it's so, we're going to show you the code, but you can define different types of data readers or data providers and say whether write through, read through, both, and deal with lists.
Yeah, so let's show you some code snippets right now so you can see.
Back
To the slides, and let's show them a couple of code snippets on how we did this. Okay, so building a data client is the first thing you do is you make up a data client and you decide whether you want to store the data locally on the device or not. For example, the blood pressure program that Gail showed you, that data was not in the cloud, that was stored locally. But the default is cloud storage. It's as simple as what you see here to build the data client, and then there will be credentials that will be given to you in the form of a JSON file, and then you install that in your project, and then the credentials for that will be authenticated. We already showed you about a little bit of the local binding. This is a quick review of the fact that if you have a message object like we just showed you, and you have a JavaFX property, and you have a property getter called text property, look at the bind statement. What we're saying here is that when the message changes, when the text in the message changes, the label will automatically be updated, right? And so
this is standard JavaFX,
and this is standard
local,
JavaFX.
in memory, not
Yeah.
remote.
Now the other thing that attracted at least me to Gluon was the fact that they took this now to remote binding, right? This is local now, right, on the device in the UI. But what they've done is they've taken this binding concept and they've now made it work on the cloud. And that's what we wanted to show you right now. So to do that, what they do is they give you these nice data synchronization flags that you can set. Right through, Gail mentioned a minute ago, we'll update the remote copy in the cloud when the data on the local device changes. They have that working for a list, which means you can get an update done if you add or remove to the list, or through an object that would change. And there's also the other direction where the local copy on the device would update when the remote data changes in the cloud, and they've got that working for lists and objects as well.
So for the message application that we just showed you, it uses object write through and object read through because it goes both ways.
Right. Okay, so this is the code snippet now that makes it all work. It's really, really nice and concise. So you use a Gluon observable object that wraps the message. You use the data provider to call the static retrieve object method with the data client that we instantiated a couple of slides ago. And with the create object data reader, you give it a string ID, the class type for the message, and then you turn on the object read through and the object write through flags. And this will keep the cloud data and your data on the device in sync at all times in both directions. That's really cool that you can do that. And it gets better because once you have that set up, then you can instantiate a label and use the bind statement there to bind the text property in the cloud for the Gluon message to the label that you have in your UI. So you can see that you're not writing very much code here, and yet a lot of things are going on behind the scenes that's working for you the way you want it to. Okay, so let's show you another cloud app that we have here, and this one would be we're going to do the blood pressure again, but we're going to store the data in the cloud. Yes.
When you're talking about local storage, is there any security integration there? Like, say, you can like encrypt that data automatically or something?
I think there's some encryption options. I haven't used them, but
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to bring up our last demo here, which is the blood pressure app again. Only instead of storing the blood pressure information on the device, it's going to be in the cloud. And we'll also show you that you can have authentication for users that are using this. So really quickly, when Gail runs this program, you'll see that it looks exactly the same as far as the UI is concerned. But again, the blood pressure data now is going to be living in the cloud.
So one thing that we're skipping over is that in order to have this, we have an authentication process, and Gluon offers Twitter and Facebook and Google Plus, or their own. You can create your own username, email, and password. So for this application, we just have Twitter authentication. So I authenticated. Once I authenticated, I don't have to keep authenticating myself. So it didn't come up with, if you haven't authenticated yet, it goes out to Twitter and asks you to log in. For that to work, you have to be a developer on Twitter and create an app over there just to get the keys that you would then install in the Gluon's portal. And so that's how that authentication handshaking takes place. So that's already happened. And because it's happened, it can grab my name from my authenticated user. This is the same application that you saw before, except the data is in the cloud. So I have this running on the Android, and just to show you, well, I have it running on both of them, but I'm just going to show one.
Yeah, so what Gail's going to do right now is she's going to get on the Android here, and she's going to update a blood pressure reading. And
so I'm going to update that, the top one from May 3rd, and I'm going to, again, change the 122 to something like 133, and update.
And there it is. Yeah,
So
so that's the synchronization of data, that's happening that we showed you by setting up those flags and doing the remote binding. That's all that's happening. That's what's happening.
And I believe under the hood that Gluon uses server-sent events for their enterprise stuff, but
yes. Okay. Let's go back to the notes here really quick and talk a little bit about how easy it is to do the user authentication. Gail mentioned that you can choose any of these login methods that you see here. So you can do your authentication through Twitter, Facebook, Google+, GitHub, or just straight email and password. And when you do this, you'll get something from Gluon that will set this up for you.
Gluon creates the views, but goes then to the framework, whatever it is, Twitter in this case, and pulls in what they provide. So you do like a web view of.
Is it for what supported also?
It's the things that you see up there: Facebook, Google+, GitHub, and email password.
Okay, now as far as you're concerned, when you write the code, all you have to do is instantiate a user client and then call the authenticate method. The authentication will all take place behind the scenes, and then you pass a lambda to that function that will be called when the authentication is complete. And now you can do, you know, something very interesting, because once the authentication is complete, you know, you can go off and do your business logic with the user. We're doing a simple system.out line to the console here, and we're just saying the user got authenticated, and we're pulling out the person's name to show you. But what you can also do here, which we're going to do on the next slide, is you can also pass a method reference. And this is what we do in our code in the service class for this app, is we have a get data, and the authentication will pass the authenticated user to you. And you can see that all the flags are on that you saw before, and the same setup is done. But in the middle, we're using the user's nickname and their network ID to authenticate a particular data set. But this is basically the code snippet that sets that all up for you behind the scenes.
And what we didn't talk about, but I just want to mention here, since you see all four of the sync flags, is that when you have a list of data, if something in the list gets added or removed, that gets flagged as a change when you say list read through and list write through, and so both directions. But if something gets modified, like what I just showed you, you also have to include the object read through and object write through. So behind the scenes, I think they're creating these property extractors that monitor when objects in the list get changed, because that's more difficult.
Okay, real quickly, just a couple more slides. We had one here that is the service class, also maintains an authenticated user property. And once again, we're hooking into the life cycle to bind the user client's authenticated user property to a property that we define in our own code. And if Gail goes to the next slide, you can see that we will inject the service object into the application so that anybody can get the information from the user. And remember, this user has been authenticated at this point. But notice that the @sign inject there, that's the dependency injection. And we're using that, if you go to the next slide. This would be the other framework that we're using called Afterburner. And this is Adam Bean, I think, did this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, some of you might know Adam Bean. And this is a lightweight framework that allows you to do dependency injection. I mean, you just saw an example of that where we used it to create the service object for readings presenter to be able to use. And we're also using it to inject the FXML loading as well. And all of this is great because it reduces the amount of Java code that you have to write, and it also eliminates things like singletons that are hard to manage, and system-wide application levels and things like that. It makes it a lot easier to work with. Okay, so at this point, I think we're on schedule, right, Frank?
Yes.
Looking good? Okay, great. It's nice to have that clock right there.
Yeah, it helps.
It helps a lot. And you guys asked some good questions. We have a few minutes to take some more, do you think? Or
Sure. Yeah.
2 minutes,
Yeah.
counting.
Remember, the best one's going to get the book here, so fire away.
One more thing is that all this code that we have, we'll put on our website. It's not there yet, but if you go to our website, asgteach.com, we'll make a link that says click here to download. It'll be just a zip file with all the projects, Gradle projects. So you should be able to use them in any item.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, so let's say I'm just developing for one of the two platforms. Are there any things that are much easier to do on either of those platforms than they are to do with Gluon's framework?
You mean if you only want one?
Yeah.
Well, yes and no. I mean, on Android, you can use Java, but it's not Java. It's like less than Java 7,
Yeah.
I think. I don't know what it is.
They do support Java 8 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking just in terms of the APIs and the usability of those.
I don't, in terms of the UI, I have in the past used Apple's, but I haven't used the Android. So the UI, I think, in JavaFX is a lot cleaner, but I don't know, so.
Okay. Yes.
Does it allow you to control to which backward version compatible your output will be? Like
In terms of Android or
both?
As far as I know, it works on, I don't know if you can control it, but it pretty much works on, I mean, I just upgraded my iPhone, so it works on the most recent iPhone. And I don't know if, I don't know Yeah, there might be a minimum in terms of, I don't know how old it gets. I mean, certainly on the Mac, you have to have current operating, not the current, but a fairly current operating system and a fairly current Xcode. In fact, in between last November and getting ready for this, I had to upgrade my Xcode from 7 point something to 8 point something. But in terms of those things, I've been able to use them on pretty much.
Because that's very important for a lot of users in the terms that if I'm developing something for a set of users, if I have created my
Right.
application while the users are still on an older operating system, then their application stops working.
Right, so you're interested in making sure that you can support older versions of the software? Yeah.
Okay, I think we're wrapping it up right now. Yeah, why don't you come on up, we'll have a book for you, okay, for the questions you were asking. Who, me? Okay, and yeah, great, we're all set here. Yeah.